feel best about, and and rep those as much as you possibly can. The same thing with Christian Bayou, but we'll see how that goes. But I think that will be a conversation that we'll need to have.
James, for a while now, you've been sharing motivational, inspirational quotes on your social media. Do you mind sharing just how did that get started, and kind of how do you choose the quotes that you're going to feature on any given day?
Yeah, it really is just we do a quote to start every single team meeting. Typically something that aligns with the message that I'm going to talk to the team about, and we put so much work into creating the graphic or whatever it may be for the team meeting. We said might as well share them because they're really good quotes. So just an opportunity to get that message out there. And some people really like quotes. A lot of times I'll go to high schools and see them up in the coach's office or whatever it may be. So not anything really profound, just something we're using in a team meeting anyway. So we figured we might as well put it out socially as well.
James, obviously you said that before was your starter at Iowa before you went out. Have you seen it change in your playing with the running back rotation? Do you know who your lead back is yet?
No, it's really kind of how it's been all year long until somebody takes ownership of that job. We'll rotate, all those guys, all the guys that are available.
Is the fluidity of Sean's status frustrating at all relative to the idea that you said yesterday you wanted to split him 50-50, you kind of have that plan 50-50, you get to Thursday or Friday, Sean can't play, then Jaquan loses the reps that he could have gotten, kind of balancing getting ready for whatever happens on Saturday with uncertainty of his status?
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I think we would all agree that we'd like Sean back, so we'll adjust. We'll adjust and do what we have to do. But I think your point is a good one. We obviously want to be able to invest our time where we think we're going to get the greatest return, and that's hard to say. I mean, literally, by the day. And a lot of times we'll get a report in the morning. We have a staff meeting every morning at 7 a.m. and Andy Mutton will go through it, and we get one report at 7 a.m. and it may be different by 2 o'clock. So kind of, I think your term fluid is a good word to describe kind of where we're at right now, and just kind of take it day by day. But I think it's a fair point. We want to try to make sure, like we always do, that the guys that are going to play the most reps in the game, the starters, are getting the majority of the reps, and that's hard to say right now.
Hey James, if your 1-0 mantra aside, do you have to do the math for these guys at all to show them still what's possible ahead, or is that just assume that?
No, I don't want them thinking like that. There's too many things. There's too many people outside. There's too much outside noise. Everybody's got an opinion. I want to beat Illinois, and I just truly believe these guys got a bunch on their plate academically, athletically, socially, and cutting this thing up into small pieces and focus on the task at hand, I think, is the best way to keep everybody focused and as consistent as possible. I think it's also magnified. I think the philosophy is magnified a little bit because, depending on what type of school you're at or where you're at, what the expectation is. And I think the college football playoff has changed that probably more than ever. It's depending on what type of school you're at and where you're at, the college football playoff has dramatically changed. I think how you operate and how people view things, and I think it's made it more challenging. So I think this is the right approach for us.
You mentioned kind of the changing availability, and that was today the first that Sean's been able to throw this week, or did he go yesterday?
Today was not the first day that Sean's been able to throw.
James, what do you think about the parity in the Big Ten? We see Purdue trip up Iowa. Do you think any team could beat any in this conference?
Yeah, I think we got a really strong conference, especially on the East. I think we have a really strong conference. Really, the Big Ten in general, but specifically the East. I think it's a really good example of not only any given Saturday, but there's also matchups. Some teams you look at Purdue given Iowa challenges for years. Obviously, talking to Coach Poindexter on our staff, sometimes it's about matchups. Sometimes it's about just a competition in our conference from top to bottom, and then from one side to the other. I think most people would say that right now our conference is part of the conversation or the argument about the strongest conference in college football. It's typically been that way, right? The SEC and the Big Ten.
Did the off week come at a good time, especially for Noah Cain? From the outside looking in, at least, it didn't look like he was quite the Noah Cain we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think, obviously, I don't want to get back into that whole discussion, but we had a bunch of injuries in the Iowa game. A bunch of guys that got knocked out and did not come back. That's a physical football team. It was a physical game. So yeah, from that perspective, we were fortunate to have the bye to get a lot of those guys healthy and back. So yeah, I think sometimes the buys are a little screwy where someone gets a bye really early in the season, like week 2 or week 10 or 11. I think whenever possible, you'd hope the conference would say we're going to try to get the bye somewhere in the middle of the season. I know a lot of times people don't like that because then you may have one weekend in the middle where a lot of people are off, like I think like our last weekend or this weekend even. But I do think that's the best thing for the conference and for the individual schools. Well, I think, for us, obviously we better know where number 1 is. He gave us fits, last year. He's a dynamic guy that can do a lot of different things as a receiver, as a running back, as a quarterback, off double passes, whatever it may be. I think he's the guy that you better be aware of. I've been very impressed with number 0, the freshman tailback. I've been very impressed with him. They got veteran quarterbacks, so I think like a lot of programs, and with Coach Bielema being in his first year, I think they're probably still looking for what is their identity in some ways, and sometimes that takes time. But obviously, if you look at Coach Bielema's track record and you look at his history and who he wants to be and how he wants to operate. Maybe some of his hires this year have been a little bit different than that, but I still think kind of his core values and the things he believes in the way the game's supposed to be played are still going to show up. So, for us, we better be aware of number 1 and where he's at.
There are certain positions that don't, on the recruiting trail, that don't sneak up on people. Trevor Lawrence wasn't a surprise. Without asking you about specific people, you offer a guy a year or plus ago that is 300 or 400 in the nation, or maybe in the middle of the pack at his position, ends up in the top 100 and much higher with his own position. Does that come from finding a guy in a weird time? Does it come from people just didn't know about him? Does it come from evaluating early? How do you find a guy that people didn't see and then have him turn into what he is?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things, right? It's obviously a really good evaluation process of being thorough, but for me to say that's the entirety of it would not be correct. I think it's his development. I think he's done a tremendous job from the development. I think his quarterback coach has done a really good job as well. Obviously, going to his high school the other day, I think he's playing in an offense that also allows him to maximize his ability and show his talents. I think it's a combination of all those things. And let's be honest, there's a skill to this, there's a talent to this, and then there's also some luck that goes along with it. I think Coach Belichick and I think the Patriots, you could make the argument maybe one of the most impressive organizations in all of sports over the last 15 years. There was also some luck involved. They got Tom Brady in the 6th round, and for anybody to say that was the plan, that they knew it was going to work out would not be accurate. That was something that worked out really well. We were able to get on, this young man. Obviously, we can't get into the specifics, but he's just flourishing. quarterbacks are flourishing. It's weird because I can't talk. I can't say who I'm talking about. So it's
I think we
strange.
can connect
It's
dots.
strange.
Last one.
James, we're about to talk to Jaquan Brisker in a second. He earned an AP midseason All-American nod this week. With a guy like PJ out, who's one of your leaders, how important is it to have Jaquan back there as one of your captains?
Yeah, I'm been really pleased with him in really every area. He's going to graduate from Penn State. He's playing really good for us. Putting the team in position to win. He's become very vocal, as a leader for us. All those things. So for him to be recognized is great. I don't really, I don't want this to come out the wrong way because I'm really happy for him. But like preseason things and middle season things, we're more concerned about kind of the end of season team recognition and then individual as well.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thanks, James. Thanks.
See you Saturday. Not tonight.